Hey Quad Bros, what's going on guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you guys are joining me for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Enlisted test server, specifically the matchmaking system that has been implemented into it, Now guys, I'm going to preface everything in this video with the following statement. Game development is really hard. Speaking from personal experience, I have made some truly horrible decisions in the time that I worked in games in college and got my degree, and I have worked and seen others make some truly insane decisions because it's just really hard. There's a lot of sunk cost fallacy that comes into play. A lot of the time people just kind of think that what they're doing makes a lot of sense, and then they give it to someone else, and that someone else says, "What in the hell are you doing?" And that's unfortunately what I'm going to be doing today. I don't mean to bring anybody down with this video. I don't mean to act like the Enlisted devs don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes at Enlisted. I do think this is a fairly egregious problem, but I also realize that this shit is really hard. So, benefit of the doubt and all, let's work together and make the game as good as it can be, because I'll say straight up, guys, this ain't it. All right? So let's first jump into why or what the system is, so then we can break down why it doesn't work. So, if you guys don't know, the matchmaking system in the proposed test server is as follows. Each tier of weapons has a set of acceptable maps that those weapons are allowed to appear in for that entire tier. So as an example, you can see the STG-44 is allowed to be in Normandy, it is allowed to be in Berlin, and it is not really supposed to be in Tunisia, Moscow, or Stalingrad. So when you queue a match and you have an STG, the game is naturally going to try to put you in Normandy. It is going to try to put you in Berlin, and it is going to tell everyone, hey, this person really shouldn't be in Tunisia, Moscow, or Stalingrad. The same can be said of the ZH. If you are using the ZH, ZH-29, it is going to try to put you in Stalingrad, Tunisia, Normandy, or Berlin, and is going to try to keep you out of Moscow. Now, the problem that comes up with this is that if we take a look at this setup that I have, I am currently preferred to be on Moscow and Normandy. All of the gear that I have here is tier 1 gear, right? Drillings, Carcano Mod 38s, a Panzer IIF, Car 98s, you know, the whole works, right? This is all early war stuff. This is tier 1 interwar, early war weaponry that is being equipped by me. However, all of this stuff is Normandy. Every weapon, every vehicle that the Axis have is available in Normandy. And while that is historically accurate, because they did fight and use everything in the Normandy campaign, because they were on the back foot and Nazi Germany was getting, for lack of better words, their shit kicked in, they used everything in Normandy. But what this means is that if I queue a match, I basically have, and this isn't entirely true, but, you know, for the sake of argument, I have a 50% chance of getting Moscow, right? Moscow. And I have a 50% chance of getting Normandy. Now, if we look at the Allies, right, and we look at late war Allies, we can see that they prefer Normandy, and they don't want to be in the Pacific or Tunisia, which means of their 3 campaigns they can be in, they are pretty much always going to be in Normandy. Do you guys see what the problem is here? Do I have to spell out more what the problem is going to be and what happens when you queue with low tier gear? Because I did play on stream and I queued with this exact setup, and I promise you guys, I was queuing into max level top tier equipment from the Allied side. And the same goes for the Allies. If we look at the tree here, everything from tier 2 onward is in Normandy. If we look at the Axis tech tree, we can see the Tiger 2H and the Tiger E is in Normandy. The STG is in Normandy, which means if you queue as a tier 2 player for the Allies, you have a better than not chance of running into some pretty high tier players, as well as even if you queue into Tunisia, right? If you get this 33% chance and you hit Tunisia, well, guess what? You can be running into Panther Gs. which not only isn't historically accurate, but also isn't balanced. Okay? So basically what is happening here, guys, is that, in my opinion, Darkflow is they're committing the original sin of all app development, of all app design. They are trying to appease everybody. There is the group of players that wants things to be balanced. There's the group of players that do not want to be playing a game where they spawn in with a Kar 98 and they're getting dropped on and murdered by dudes with 100-round Thompsons, because that's just not fun. It's not fair. It's kind of fun in the challenging uphill battle kind of way, but I'll tell you guys, that gets real old real fucking quick, okay? They're trying to appease those players that want balance, and they're also trying to appease the players who want historical accuracy. They're trying to appease the players that don't want to see things like the Panther in Tunisia. They're trying to appease the players that want to only see the stuff that was used on the fronts that it was used on, okay? And they are not appeasing anyone. They have done the original sin of making a game for everyone and thus making a game for no one. In my opinion, the way forward is to make the game balanced. Prioritize balance over historical accuracy. You can try to balance the game and put weapons and gear into matches where they were historically used and were historically fought with, but you're never going to have a truly balanced experience by doing so. We also have some other side issues because of this system, like this, for example, the 343rd Infantry Regiment. This is a premium squad that I'm sure a lot of you probably bought during the last premium sale because it's a really good squad. And if we take a look at this squad, whoops, do I have to click this? No, I think I have to put it in. So if you take a look at this squad, you can see that this is their camouflage. A lot of people really like this camouflage. I know people who literally bought this squad because they thought this camouflage, this skin, for lack of better words, is really goddamn cool. And I gotta say, I kind of agree. They do look kind of dope, right? But if we take a look, this is only in Moscow. In Berlin, they get this generic stuff. In Stalingrad, they get kind of a similar idea kind of thing, but still, this is what you can have in Stalingrad normally. And Normandy, and finally, Tunisia, right? However, if we take a look at this weapon has an undesired campaign of Moscow. So the skin that you bought, the camouflage that you bought, can't even be used with this premium squad in the campaign that you fucking bought it for. How does that make any goddamn sense? I'm sorry, but it doesn't. I mean, there's nothing more to say about this, guys, right? Like, we just simply have to balance the game first, right? Like, I know people are going to be whacked out by seeing weird weapons used in places that they weren't used historically, but the reality is that that's already the case in current Enlisted. Enlisted has never been a truly historically accurate game. I've always compared Enlisted to Fury, the movie Fury, okay? Or the movie T-34, okay? It is trying to create an environment that kind of feels like World War II, right? You don't have the Soviets on D-Day the way that you might in Battlefield. You don't have the Soviets using STGs or the Americans using STGs or something like that. Weapons are tied to the faction that use them, and the maps are tied to the factions that use them. But the actual equipment that's there, isn't 100% accurate. Jumbos were not in Normandy. The M2 carbine was not in Normandy. There were not squads of soldiers running around during D-Day using entire, squad setups of FG-42s or FG-42-2s. It just simply didn't happen historically, right? Like, the ZH-21 was not used historically to any major extent. The MG-15 was not used historically in any major extent, okay? Like, this is the kind of stuff where it's just like, we have to sacrifice a level of accuracy in favor of making the game genuinely playable for everyone involved and fun for everybody involved. So now we come to what I think that the developers of Enlisted should do. And this is a fairly popular suggestion, and this is what everyone more or less thought the game was going to do in the first place. So we already have these tiers, right? We have tiers 1 through 5, right? Tier 2, tier 1 back here. So all I propose is if you queue the game and you have an FNAB 43 and you have tier 2, right? because it takes whichever weapon is your highest tier. You take this tier, and it tries to queue you into other people who are in tier 2. Say you get 10 other people. You need 20 for a match. You get 10 other people in tier 2. Now, the game is going to say, okay, we need 9 more people to fill the game. So it says, all right, let's find some people in tier 1, and let's find some people in tier 3, because we couldn't find enough in tier 2. So it opens that up, right? It slides open the matchmaking, it broadens its scope, and it finds 8 more players, up to 19 total, in tier 3 and in tier 1, split between them. You need 1 more player, so it says, okay, let's open it up again, and then they grab someone from tier 4. So then you get like 1 guy with a panther or whatever. Now, this is mostly balanced. I think the majority of the time you're going to be able to fill matches with people in your current tier or tier 1 or tier 1 above or tier 1 below. And I think generally speaking, that's going to be mostly balanced. I think you're going to have the fun stuff where you can be in like a Panzer III J1 fighting a Sherman, which isn't a particularly fair matchup, but it's a winnable matchup and it's kind of interesting in its own way, right? Like, there's going to be some problems with this system, but I think it's significantly better than whatever the hell we have in the current, in the proposed system, and it's certainly better than whatever we have in current Enlisted. That's kind of what I think they should do. You can add the map-based preferred maps on top of that. You can give each weapon individually a set of preferred maps, and then after you have assigned the 20 players with the tiers, you can then take a look at everybody's preferred map and say, oh, everybody here is okay to play in Moscow, so we're going to put all of you in Moscow. Or, oh, 18 of the 20 players here are okay to play in Tunisia, so we're going to throw you into Tunisia, right? That is preferred. It is not guaranteed by any stretch, but it is preferred to be that way. I would argue that, honestly, just removing the preferred maps, other than the basis for, like Soviets need to be on the Eastern Front and things like that, but I would argue that just removing that shit is fine. I think that there are very few maps in Enlisted that if you really, like, if you took a new player and you asked them, where is this, that they would actually know. Like, I think if you put an IS-2 and a Moscow map with a new player, the new player would just think it's a generic winter map, and they wouldn't really know that it's supposed to be Moscow. But that's just me. So, regardless, I think the best system, outside of, the best system, regardless of whether or not we have these preferred maps or not, is to have this tier system where you go up 1, down 1, and find players that way. So that's my, that is what I think we should be doing. That is my recommendation for ultimately fixing this system that we have and what has been currently proposed. But that's it, guys. That's my thoughts. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. I'm sure the Enlisted devs would as well. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you're there, like and subscribe for more Enlisted content. I will be saying that I don't think the merge is going to be coming anytime soon, simply because of the fact that, oh boy, this is a mess. So we're probably a little ways off. So make sure you guys are joining Discord, playing some Enlisted matches in the current live client. So that's it, guys. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.